Welcome everybody to our webinar today, The Evolving Role of the DBA in the Cloud Era. My name is Alex Killian. I'm the video producer on our marketing team here today, and I am kicking things off for us. So to get started here, our agenda, we're going to do our welcomes, introduce our speakers, and then we'll have our chat with our database panel and follow it up at the end with the Q&A. So if any questions come up during the presentation today, submit them in that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to get to everybody's questions before the end. So to tell you just a bit about our company, for more than 30 years now, XTIVIA has been providing a variety of expert IT services to hundreds of businesses in countless industries. We like to say, if you can imagine a business outcome, XTIVIA can create it with technology. And here you can see an overview of our technologies and services. Today, obviously, we're focusing on database, but we do things across the board. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about our other offerings. And specifically today, we'll be talking about database. Here you can see all the platforms that we support and our different service levels. Again, reach out if you've got any further questions about this. And our panelists today. So these are the heads of our database practice here at XTIVIA. We've got Tony Salerno, the VP of Data Management and Managed Services. Kat Meadows, our Senior Manager of SQL Server and Cloud Divisions. Ian Bajorhev, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. The Senior Manager of DB2, Informix, and On-Call Database Divisions. And Cheryl Brill, our Senior Manager of Oracle, MySQL, and PostgreSQL, MongoDB Divisions. So we've really got all of our database platforms represented in our panel today, and we're super excited to be chatting with them. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Tony Salerno.
Hi, everybody. So to start, I'm pretty sure it's Bajorvda. Ian, did I get that right?
Close enough.
Close enough. Okay, I'm sorry. I butchered it too. So today we're here to kind of have a chat. We're going to do some questions and answers around the role of a DBA in a cloud-managed database environment as opposed to a self-managed database environment, which probably is something everyone's used to. I will spoil it for you. You still need a DBA in a cloud-managed database environment, and we're kind of going to talk about why, but I just let the cat out of the bag. In a cloud-managed database environment, what are those responsibilities that you need a DBA for? So we're just going to ask the team kind of what are those things that a DBA needs to do in a cloud environment?
So actually, I mean, you still need the DBA to monitor your system, right? I mean, even though it's in a managed cloud environment, there's still monitoring to be done, right? Someone has to, get the alerts if something goes wrong. There's still, the potential for a database down or high CPU.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Ian.
Sorry, Kat. Yeah, adding to that, I mean, it's still a database, and keeping track of your application performance, making sure that you're meeting your business users' needs, and achieving the throughput that you need with your database is still happens, whether that database is running on-prem like it used to or now in the cloud.
And obviously, the other thing that's really important when you're running in the cloud is the security of the databases, that we need to make sure that they are locked down. Only people who can access the databases and access the data inside of it are seeing the data that's responsible. There's a lot of governance that is out there right now. So a DBA really has to focus on making sure that the data is protected.
Yeah. And performance optimization. I mean, that's just as good as the code that's being put into the database, right? Do you have indexes? We still have to look at areas such as that. If you have spikes in CPU, maybe your monitoring will catch it and will get alerted. The DBA will get alerted. So they still have to do that, analyzing the queries that are running, identifying the queries that could be causing high spikes in CPUs or any other kind of performance degradation.
And then obviously you have your high availability and your DR. So even if it's in the cloud, it's still running on hardware. Hardware does fail. So the cloud just gives you a better ability to be able to help reduce the amount of times that your system will not be available by having like the high availability in different geozones and everything out there, or even basically being able to do replication between maybe Azure and AWS.
And your DBA should remind you that you need to test your disaster recovery. So even in the cloud, you need
Oh,
to make
yeah.
sure it works. You just, even though you're doing snapshots or backups, you still got to test that you can restore and find out how long it takes and things like that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And then capacity planning is, of course, another, it becomes even more important in the cloud, right? You don't always have the luxury of having as much hardware as you want when you're in the cloud. And so keeping an eye on what you're currently using and forecasting what you're going to need as your business grows is another key responsibility for the DBA.
Yep, very good point.
Okay, I think we can slide on to the next one. So the bottom line on this one is, when you're in a cloud managed database environment, how does a DBA save you money? And I think that's the question we want to ask here.
Sure. I mean, so the reason why we're all, all businesses are going to the cloud, right, is for the cost savings. There's savings on the infrastructure, but there's still costs involved. So you have to make sure you right size your resources, right? So, in the cloud, doesn't matter if, which cloud managed service you go, there's costs, right? You've got ingress of your data, egress of your data. And then you've got how many CPU you can assign to your instance. So the DBA can help track trending and make sure you're right sized, instead of just set it and forget it. The DBA is going to now do a little more analysis to look at, health checks periodically and ensure that you're not oversized, right? And now you're just wasting resources. Maybe you have too many CPUs that you don't need for this particular database in there, or maybe you need more. If you have spikes in seasonality.
Yeah, and adding to that, remember that when you're in the cloud, you're paying for all the CPU when it's running on the system. Unlike on-prem system where you make a initial purchase of the hardware and you're not apart from amortizing it that over some time, you have a one-time expense, right? On the cloud, it's an ongoing expense. So if you're over provisioned or and using more than or provisioning more than you actually need, you're going to run up those costs really quickly.
Another way that we're kind of saving money in the cloud is the automation. So a lot of on-prem steps and responsibilities that we have to do definitely take a lot of time. The cloud platforms offer a lot of ability to basically create the scripts to be able to deploy things very fast, very quickly. Also making sure that you're staying within your coding standards and your structure standards for how you want your systems stood up and supported. So the automation, it actually helps more from the cost of a human being, that we're able to do things a lot faster in a timely manner.
Yeah, another area, especially on the Oracle side of things, right? So the Oracle databases have high licensing costs. So we also have to make sure, Oracle DBAs have to make sure that when you do go to the cloud, even the cloud managed databases for, an Oracle instance, you have to make sure that you are adhering to the licensing, right? That you are licensed for the amount of CPUs that you're purchasing and such. So, so you do need a DBA to, keep you honest, so to speak.
Anyone else on this one? So I will say on this slide that this is something we do for a lot of clients now, especially at the migration stage. Based on what they have on-prem, we help them figure out what the optimization thing for migration is. And then we come in afterwards too for clients and we help them, optimize costs there as well.
Yeah. That's actually a good point, because these cloud have cost tools now too. So, the DBA and an architect, data architect, can go in there and, put in some, how many instances, what sizes, and get the different costing, and then make decisions that way also. Yeah.
Right. So I think in a cloud managed, database environment, there are unique challenges. So what are some of those unique challenges the DBA faces in that environment?
What I noticed when I was supporting databases in the, the managed clouds, like the AWS RDS, is you could not get access to the operating system. And DBAs were so used to that, right? So it's just a training, aspect of going to the cloud. You just need to know what tools you can use, right? There are client tools that you can use, client interfaces and such. And then you just find, the method to get your error logs, downloaded to you if you even need them that way, right? So you just learn to, grow your skills as a DBA in the cloud as well. With the vendor lock-in, I'll answer that one too with the Oracle again. A lot of companies want to maybe go to a different database, right? So maybe they want to migrate off of a very expensive solution like Oracle, and in the cloud, there's so many different options, right? You've got the Auroras in AWS, and then Azure, you've got, the different tiers of MySQL or open source or marketplace solutions, right? So there's a lot of challenges there, they're more, maybe not even challenges, maybe they're opportunities, so if you look at it that way.
Yeah, with with Amazon RDS, it's also sometimes you have to change how you administer the database a little bit, right? It's not always the same interfaces that you're used to, and also how you think about things like backup and recovery changes a lot when you have the cloud, right? You're used to having to, recover a database from a backup, but in the cloud, you have so many different options for availability, whether it's snapshot recovery or using object storage for maintaining your data and logs. So it's it can be very different than on-prem, and understanding how those tools and services are working. It's just a growth thing, right? It's a new area for DBAs to become familiar with.
And then most DBAs, I mean, we're kind of control freaks. I'm not going to lie. That we like to make sure that we have control over everything. And we're really kind of going more to like a shared responsibility model, meaning that depending on who is hosting your data out in the cloud, are you using a software as a service, a product as a service, or just the infrastructure? Who has that responsibility to making sure that your data is protected? So in the past, in an on-prem environment, obviously that fell directly to the DBA. So now in the cloud environment, it's understanding and really defining in what situations is the DBA responsible for it, and what situations is possibly the vendor responsible for that protection of your data.
I might just say, it's mentioned challenges. Again, just to reiterate, it's, the challenge for the DBA is learning the tools, the native tools that are available to you. And there's so many of them, right? So then it's, picking the correct tool for what your needs are.
Yeah, it's like a different animal, but it's dressed up in a costume. So you have to get to it and figure out how to work it a different way.
Great way to put it, right?
So talking about obviously the cloud native features of a cloud managed database, what can a DBA leverage and to make things better in the cloud?
Yeah, I was kind of alluding to this on the last slide, talking about backups, for example. Using object storage to send your backups or to send your archive transaction logs or the like, right? You're not having to allocate that as normal disk space like you would on a server, right? Or you're not necessarily using a third-party storage manager like, for example, Commvault. You can really leverage what the cloud has available, and provided your database vendor of choice is leveraging it, you can integrate directly with some of these features that are provided by Amazon or Azure or GCP.
Data integration, right? So these clouds are where they're excelling as the economies of scale, right? So an Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, they have so many integrations, pipelines to variety of data lakes, data marts, data warehouses. You can integrate your databases, whether they're the heterogeneous integrations and such. So it's, just learning those tools for the cloud solution your company selects, is, a great way to leverage, what you have available to you without having to go out there and purchase it. Like if you were on-prem, you'd have to go purchase licenses, and here you would like pay to use a solution.
I really like the scalability for the future for the DBA. I mean, we've all had those database systems that we manage that it literally sits around for 6 months and does nothing. And then the business need for it, it picks up, it hits really hard. It's really busy. If you think it's like a tax environment, tax time is always a certain time of year that you can use the scalability of the cloud to be able to boost the performance of the system. And then you can back it back down when the system's not being heavily hit. So as a DBA, I'm always answering the question of why do I have a system that, has, eight cores and 128 gigs of memory and stuff on it when it's sitting there doing nothing. And obviously the VM administrators are like, well, can't we just use this for something else? Where in the cloud, we now have the ability to basically boost it when we need to, and then take it back down when we don't need the hardware.
Yeah. Another big advantage here in the cloud that you can leverage is just the ability to stand up an environment really quickly, right? If you want to test something, you have the ability to stand up a brand new environment, run your tests on it for a couple of weeks and shut it back down. And that's something that's just not possible outside, right? In an on-prem. Sometimes it may take, you have 3, 4, 5 months to stand up a new environment. And when you can just, click a few buttons and have a highly available, multi-region test environment running, you can evaluate some of those things, some of those, performance, recoverability, et cetera, features that would take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money to do in a on-prem situation.
Yeah, and of course, automation. I mean, that's huge nowadays, with especially large organizations going into the cloud. So there are so many tools, Terraform, Cloud Formation, to automate things so that if you're spinning up new instances, they are, they are standardized, right, to your settings, to, how you need to set up your parameters and such. You can also automate backup plans and such, so that you can make sure that all of your production databases are using the same automated backup policy in the cloud environment.
Yeah, so there is a lot available, and actually for Ian's first point about being able to, leverage a lot of the cloud stuff for backups and whatnot. I remember when we moved our monitoring database to the cloud and we could back it up to Amazon S3 buckets. I was like, this is so cool. So, I mean, it made life so much easier. You didn't have all these large files you had to handle and push around. I think we can slide to the next slide. Slide to the slide. So I guess, we've talked about a lot of the different things and that DBAs have to do and not do, but how does the role of a DBA evolve in a cloud managed database environment?
I think that one of the areas that I really consider when you're thinking about the cloud is, historically, there have really been two kinds of DBAs, right? You have system DBAs who are managing the database, looking at the recovery, managing the high availability and stuff directly. And then you had application DBAs who were much more integrated with the application development team, working to performance tune, working to, make changes to how the application, how the applications query the database and the like. And going to the cloud really brings that application DBA role back to the forefront. It becomes much more important when you're dealing with, larger latencies if you're going to data centers that are far away, or you're dealing with, again, cost containment, right? Making sure that you have enough, just enough resources to meet your SLAs. So that's one of the biggest things that I think that we need to look at, is just evolving into becoming more integrated with your developers.
Yeah,
I would definitely agree on that one. I think that also the collaboration really comes to the forefront of being able to talk to the different areas in your corporation, of work with those developers, We all have a lot of code that's out there that we used to just always just throw hardware at to make it run faster. And now you actually have to sit down and really, look at the business requirements of the queries and what they're trying to resolve, and really focus in on, okay, how can I get you the best amount of data in the fastest way possible using the least amount of resources to help keep the costs down.
And I like to think now, we're called DBAs, right? Database administration. So what the cloud has done is automated a lot of the minutia, like the mundane admin tasks. So now it's almost like we're database management or database engineers. So, now we're engineering solutions. So, I mean, no longer do you say, I'm an Oracle DBA and our platform is this. Now we have DBAs that will also go out there, in the cloud and say, well, hey, we've got another solution. We can spin up these Aurora, MySQL or Postgres instances for, something that isn't tied to the Oracle database, to help save licensing costs. So, we're involving in making more decisions for the company. Again, the whole goal for the company is to save money, right? But keep your data safe, keep your data managed and such. But, the cloud is doing a lot of the just simple admin stuff. So that's something we don't need to do anymore. Now we can help, again, architect solutions more or less.
Okay. And I think, one of the things to keep in mind is there is a learning curve. So a DBA has just maintained the, self-managed on-prem, database systems. There are things to learn to optimize and use it properly in the cloud. And they do have to continuously learn, because the cloud updates features and settings and what you can do and what you can't do all the time. So I guess, since we covered kind of the both sides of this, how are things still similar for a DBA when they're working in a self-managed and a cloud-managed database environment?
We're still doing a lot of the same tasks. We're in there trying to improve performance. We're trying to make sure that the system is up, it's available and ready at all times. We're still planning for our disaster recovery. High availability is great when it, deals with maybe a hardware issue or a networking issue, but then there's also the DR aspect of, somebody accidentally deleted an entire table. So the DBA is in there and helping planning for that. So that's some of the similar things that we do in both environments.
And then I'll talk on data governance or, data security, right? So the cloud gives us a lot of security in regards to, encryption of the data at rest and also SSL, in transit, data in transit, but there's still in the database, there's still roles and responsibilities that, we need to define so that we have segregation of what type of application user can access which data. You still have to know your regulatory compliance standards, for your database, right? So if I have a healthcare database I'm managing, I need to know, what HIPAA compliance standards need to be adhered to in my database, right? And data masking, if I'm going to restore a database, for dev testing, there's data masking, or you have to make sure that, the personal identifying information isn't disclosed, things like that, credit card information, all of that. So, I mean, we still have to, manage the data securely.
Yeah, you guys said it great. I don't think I have anything to add on this one.
The only thing I have to add, you still have to monitor it. A database is a database. You still have to make sure, are you having deadlocks? Are you having an extended blocking? Are there issues inside your database? You have to pay attention to that information. That, the cloud environment does give you the ability to monitor, but someone still has to be, looking at those alerts.
Yeah, and speaking to the monitoring, right? So you also have to set up alerts, right? And what threshold do you want to be alerted if you get high spikes in CPU for how long, or max connections to the database if that goes off the charts? We want to be alerted as DBAs still, just as if it was on-prem, especially in today's, all the things going on in the world with, denial of service attacks, right? So we want to be alerted if, we see this huge spike that doesn't make sense to the way our data seasonality is, you know, our data transactions are. So yeah, monitoring's always going to be important.
So that brings us to our Q&A section here. Thank you all so much great info there. We have gotten a few questions come in, so I'll throw those out, and then whoever wants to take it, feel free. First up, our first question here. So does my business need to stay on-prem, or do we need to move to the cloud?
It really depends. It really depends on what your business need is, what your database need is. You know, most customers are more in like a hybrid environment where they've moved a lot of things out to the cloud, but they're keeping a lot of things still on-prem. You have to look at regulatory as well, like which cloud can you even take your data to? Is it sensitive? Does it have to go in like, you know, the government environment in the cloud? And then what we really recommend for companies, they're just looking at, you know, possibly exploring the cloud, maybe move their disaster recovery to the cloud, you know, keep everything on-prem and just have their DR located out there in case there is a site issue where, you know, maybe the power grid goes out in their location where their data center is, and they can still, you know, basically move everything to the cloud and still stay up and running for their customers.
Yeah, for business critical stuff, I mean, we still see a lot of customers who have that requirement to keep some of their workloads on-prem, right? It doesn't always make sense to move everything up into the cloud. And so like Kat suggested, doing that in a phased manner, you know, evaluating carefully what makes sense to move into the cloud, and you know what really makes sense to remain on-prem is a big exercise.
And we have helped clients figure it out. I mean, you know, it comes down to obviously with all the cost estimators in the cloud, you can kind of, you know, if you can take a deep look at what you've got on-prem and what you want to move to the cloud, you can cost it out to see if it's going to save you money. But then like Kat and Ian mentioned, you have to look at all the other things about compliance and security and all those things, and make sure you have the knowledge base that if there is a problem in the cloud, that your team can support it. And that's a learning curve to move there as well, so that you have to consider.
So our next question we got in here, how can a remote DBA service like XTIVIA's virtual DBA contribute to data security and compliance in a cloud environment?
Security audits, definitely going through, looking at your cloud infrastructure environment, working with, if you have a cloud engineer, then we can work with your cloud engineer to look at how things are structured via the portal or management console, depending on which cloud that you're in, going in, looking at how the database is set up, looking, you know, who has access, how can things access it, just like we would do in an on-prem environment for a security audit. So we do have that capability.
And also looking at it from the cloud side, right? Looking at how the applications, how the nodes, how the databases are provisioned, who has access just within the cloud, to make sure that that's handled properly is another thing that we do with our customers.
Yeah, I mean, I will just reiterate what they Kat and Ian said. What I see is, yeah, the biggest thing is, you know, segregation of duties, right? So who has access to the cloud, right? Because now that's your sensitive area, right? Who can go into the cloud and modify anything, right? So that's one area of concern for security. And then again, you know, your database, you know, you inherit a lot of security features by being in the cloud, you know, in a cloud managed environment, like the data at rest encryption and then the data in transit, but they're still inside the database, you know, your normal areas that you need to have your roles and responsibilities, or different auditing turned on so you can see what types of users are accessing what types of data. So, I mean, you still need to have all that in place and reviewed, right? So reporting on it also, like Kat had mentioned.
Okay, our next question we got in here, can we use both AWS and Azure?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have many customers doing it. Yeah.
You can use Oracle OCI and Azure too, right? So, I mean, those two, Microsoft and Oracle, they teamed up so that they have a super fast pipeline so that the parts of an organization that are Oracle based can go on the Oracle OCI cloud, and then the parts of their organization that are heavy Microsoft can go, or the rest of the images can go to the Azure side.
And all the cloud providers are working together so that you can interface with other clouds from theirs. So, I mean, they all have stuff in place, and also it helps you avoid, vendor lock-in if you can spread things across multiple providers. And it also helps you if there's an outage with one provider versus another, you'd still be able to work. So all those reasons, but the underlying thing is then you have to have the knowledge to work in each environment. They're all a little different. Their interfaces are a little different. Everything under the covers is still the same for the most part, but which knobs you have to turn. And our team works in so many environments, they have a handle on that. And your staff would just have to get up to speed if they have the time on the different environments to be able to work and hop between them.
Yeah, good point.
Our next question here. What are the key challenges organizations face when managing databases in a cloud environment? And how can a remote DBA service like Virtual DBA help with that?
Yeah, we have a lot of customers that they experience sticker shock when they initially just okay, this is what our system looks like on-prem. Let's go ahead and create the equivalent out in the cloud, and they get their first monthly bill and they're like, please get us out of this. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So with the remote DBA, obviously, we've kind of been there, done that, seen that in a lot of different environments. So we can kind of quickly go in and, do the analysis to realize, are they over provisioned? Are they under provisioned? Is it maybe the application wasn't ready to go to the cloud yet? From a query standpoint, that more tuning needs to be done before you actually take it out to the cloud, so you're using less resources. Those are the different things that we can help with. So sorry, Tony, go ahead.
No. Well, I was going to say scalability. I mean, I think it was Ian that mentioned before how you can just spin up new environments for testing. And I think, I forget which one said it earlier, but even your server, your database server, you can grow it and shrink it. You can scale on demand. Well, your staff is going to have to be able to do that as well. And when you need an extra set of hands because you got to get something done quickly and you can spin up all of these test environments, we help clients do that all the time. And, we're that extra set of hands that can come in and just help when they need to scale their staff as well as their database environment.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we have clients that, perhaps they have an on-site DBA and, we're just, another set of eyes if they have something like a performance issue, right? Or a spike, or if they have a need to expand in their environment, right? Get another best practices point of view from a company like us that has many DBAs doing many things, and with many clients. So we've seen a lot of different, say, integrations, right? Or setting up the pipelines and things to a data warehouse or data lake type of solution. We can help with all of that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, just the like Cheryl was mentioning, the basic skill gap of someone who's just worked in an on-prem versus a cloud environment, even the migration is totally new. So we've migrated clients, then we've supported them while their team gets up to speed. And then usually we just keep supporting them because we're that extra set of hands and, we're that knowledge base that can help them, overcome issues. So that skill gap is there. It can be bridged, but it takes time. And in general, a remote DBA service allows, if you have on-staff DBAs, they can focus more on the business and what needs to happen, what's new going on, where a remote DBA service can back them up, but also take care of the mundane, performance tuning. Well, that's kind of fun, but, performance tuning and checking backups and taking care of things while the DBA is maybe working with the developers or doing future planning, the staff DBA. So we fit in various ways with clients, and the cloud is just another way. Cloud managed database is just another way we can fit right in and be that extra set of hands that can help.
To that point, we do monitoring, right? So the cloud has the monitoring features. We set it up. We, just thresholds as needed, we get the alerts, right? So,
Right.
our team of DBAs will be the one woken up if needed on a Saturday night, where your DBAs can sleep and rest assured that, things are being taken care of, right? And
Yeah. That's a good point. AWS has CloudWatch, and Azure has, I think Azure Monitor, or they keep changing the name,
Yeah.
monitoring service. I forget. But yeah, we get the alerts, and it's just like our other monitoring tools. The DBAs respond and jump right in.
So I think we got time for a couple more questions here. Someone was asking if this meeting is being recorded for future playback, and yes, it is. You'll get an email with a link to this whole presentation after we're done here. But another DBA related question we got, do you provide DBA cloud training?
We provide, I mean, our managed service clients, pretty much we're here for anything they need a DBA for. And if that's coaching their staff, we'll very often do screen shares and show folks how to do things if that's what if they want to learn. So we can do that. Formal training, probably not. We'd have to think about that one. But any of you others have an opinion or experience with this that we've done?
Yeah, I will say, pretty much what you just said there, Tony, is so we don't have like an 8 to 5 p.m. training, like we're the trainers of the cloud. Maybe we don't have anything like that. But as part of our service, we will have knowledge transfer, right? So someone hires us to, migrate them into the cloud and set up their monitoring, right? So then we're going to transfer knowledge. So maybe we'll do it on a screen share, and we'll go over the monitoring. We'll go over how to set up the alerts, to go to their DBAs, things like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't say per se it's like a official training, more like a knowledge transfer, and it's more specific to what they need.
And mentoring. We mentor. We have a lot of customers that have a lot of junior DBAs that then they hire us to kind of be their phone a friend option. And so when they're tasked to do something, their junior DBA will reach out to us. We're like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. How do I do this? And so we'll mentor them specifically in their environment of how they need to, progress forward and actually complete the task.
And a plus is then we're there to back them up if they go on vacation, they get sick. So, there's always that benefit as well.
I think we got time for one more here. Someone's curious if we have a branch in the Philadelphia area.
Well, we don't have a branch because we're remote DBAs, so to speak. So we are all over the US, and we have a branch in India as well. But mainly it doesn't really matter where you are. We don't really come on site. We can if a client wants us to. We used to do it a lot more in the past. With the cloud now, everyone's connecting to the cloud from wherever they are. So we can definitely help you wherever you are. At Philly, I've gone to Philly. I go to Philly all the time, so I'm the closest to Philly. But you don't want me touching your database. I'm the top dog here, so you don't want me doing that. But I mean, we can help you wherever you are is kind of the point, I think I would say, and to answer that question.
Again, nowadays, like with a Zoom Teams call, we do screen shares, right? So
Yeah.
we can, hands on keyboard, you can watch, the DBA work, or, work through problems, architect a solution into the cloud, whatever's needed.
And we have all different kind of clients located in all different locales. And, so some clients we can log in and do whatever we need to. We might get on a monitoring alert, and what they've instructed us to do is log in and take care of it. Other clients want to more project manage us, where if we get an alert, we call somebody there and they might fix it, or they might want us to show them how to fix it, or, we'll fix it. But it comes down to, we can fit into an organization however they want us to. And we're really here to support them remotely. And, a lot of times it's via screen share. Some clients we cannot log in ourselves. They have to initiate a screen share, and they have to watch us and record it due to, whatever business procedures and policies and rules they have in place, security, obviously. So we fit in however we can to support clients.
All right, awesome. So I think that brings us to the end of our webinar. As I mentioned, we will be sending this out afterwards if you want to review anything. Also, definitely check out our blog at virtual-dba.com for more cloud best practices. And thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to our panel. Really great information, and we would love to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions or interested in working with us.
Yeah, I want to thank all the attendees. We
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
appreciate- Yeah, we appreciate
Yeah.
your interest.